Hello everyone, my name is Jason Florian and I'm here with Jim Thompson today. If you could introduce yourself to the camera.
Yes, my name is Jim Thompson. I'm a men's tennis coach here at Virginia Tech and I've been here for about 28 years. I'm happy to be here today.
So today we're just going to talk about his coaching experience and his playing experience. If you didn't know, he was an excellent tennis player back in his day and he probably still is today. So we'll just start off with your college career at Davidson. If you could just speak about your experiences there and how it was to play in college.
It seems like a long time ago. Obviously, I graduated from Davidson in 1988, but I remember when I chose Davidson, I chose it because of the coach. His name was Jeff Frank, and he was kind of like an awesome mentor. He was, at the time, had been there quite a while and had quite an established record. And we played on clay courts at Davidson when I went there, and so I thought I could help. That also could help develop my game because I'd never played on clay that much. And so, I played my first year. I played number 3. Had a great experience. Loved college tennis. We played tons of matches in the spring, and then I played one my sophomore through my senior year, and had an excellent experience.
And at Davidson, you mentioned that you were starting off at number 3 and you eventually made your way to the number 1 position 2 years, and you were the team captain. How did you approach that leadership role in the team, and did you carry yourself with a different kind of mindset?
So it was always like, I think I had a lot of pride in the fact that I was going to be one of the hardest workers. That was kind of one of the things I felt like I could always control, whether I played 1 or 10. I could control how I practiced and how I, not necessarily always performed, but certainly how I brought myself to practice every day. And so yes, I think I had that mindset that I was going to be the best I could be and try to challenge myself every single day to be good. And so the leadership role kind of came on itself because people respect that. They know you are going to come and work hard every day and do the best for the team always. Felt like I was always a good teammate as well.
So there's some captains who are really tough on their teammates and really drive them to bring out the best in each other. Would you say you were a captain who was constantly supporting your teammates and telling them, you're doing great, but I know you can do even better?
I don't know if it was that direct, but yes, I think I was hard on the guys around me to perform well because I felt like they knew when they walked on the court with me I was going to give my best, and so I would expect that from them. And so I think that kind of led itself. I had a really good role model in my freshman year, a guy by the name of Sedge Gray, who used to keep me after practice and make me work extra, and kind of gave me that sort of drive. I think I had that drive, but I think he sort of pushed it out even more. And so I think he helped me a lot, and I think I was able to help a lot of younger players as I got in that role.
Cool. And you were the indoor champion in the Southern Conference?
You've done your homework.
Yeah. And alongside that, some of your other accolades were you won sportsmanship. You won the sportsmanship award 2 times in a row. How were you able to receive those accolades, and what does it mean to you to be a good sportsman on the tennis court?
Well, I think that goes back to probably my mom. My mom emphasized sportsmanship and emphasized doing things the right way and treating people with respect. And so I think tennis is a great game that you play, but it doesn't really matter what the guy on the other side does. You should be able to carry yourself and conduct yourself in a way that represents your family and your team and yourself. And I always held myself to that high standard, and it was just nice that I think those 2 awards in the Southern Conference, it's called the Buddy Hartzell Award, that I'm very proud of because obviously people noticed that I behaved the right way and did things, always tried to do things the right way. I wanted to win the right way, and I thought I was very fair on the court. So those were really good awards that I'm really proud of. I think Coach Frank also had that culture in our program, and I think that also helps a lot to allow you to be who you want to be. I mean, I wanted to be known as a good sportsman. I wanted people to think I won because I was the better player, not because I was doing things underhandedly.
That's good to hear. There's not a lot of good sportsmanship now. There's a lot more of that competitive, I want to get in your head and try to make you mess up, instead of just playing fair and doing let your game do the talking.
Yes.
But it's good to hear that you were good and fair, and you were winning. So that was great to see. So after college, you continued to play a few years, and you were the USTA national champion at Georgia. What city was it in Georgia that you won that?
Which title? Which one are you referring to there? I don't know.
1987 USTA national champion.
Oh, okay. So I won a national title in Augusta, Georgia. Augusta, Georgia. Yes, that was on the national. USTA had a national amateur circuit, and I was fortunate enough to win that back in the day. So yeah, that's a long time ago. Brings back memories.
So after college, was it always the dream just to keep playing tennis?
It was always the dream to play and see if I could become a professional tennis player. And I wasn't delusional in the fact that I was going to be the best in the world, but I wanted to see how high up I could actually be. And so that was always the dream and the pursuit, and the reason for all the hard work and the time and dedication to it.
What kind of competitors were you facing after college?
So there's sort of 3 levels of professional tennis. There's sort of back when I played, it was called the Satellite Tour, and then they had sort of a Challenger Tour, and then sort of the ATP Slam Tour where you climb level, and then US Open and those levels. I never reached that level, but I played a lot of the Satellite level, and great players play the Satellite level. I played beside Michael Chang back in the day, so when he was not very well known, and then he went on to have a great pro career. So awesome. Lots of fun memories.
So when you were playing in college, was it before or after that you were doing all the traveling? So I noticed you went to Europe, North Africa, and Australia, right?
Yes. I did a lot of that after college. I did a lot of traveling in the summers during college, but mainly when I went abroad was after college.
Where was your favorite place abroad to play out of all those places you went to?
It's a tough question. I mean, I loved my trip to Australia. It was lots of fun. The Australians are fun people. The tournaments were lots of fun. They were in different places, just different experiences. I went with a teammate from Davidson to Austria, and I got to live with his family for 2 of the 4 weeks. And I really enjoyed getting to know his family and seeing the different culture, how they live, and that was lots of fun. So I had fun everywhere I went.
Nice. I noticed it's a very relative thing for tennis players to go abroad and experience all these different kinds of countries, players, because every single country plays tennis a different way. There's a different kind of attitude and play style to it. When you were traveling, did you notice that players were playing different, or that they had a different mindset compared to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the Europeans, they grow up on the red clay and it's slower, and so they develop more, I would say, tendency to keep balls in play and make rallies extended. And Americans that play on hard courts are usually sort of bigger hitters or faster to get to the point to find out who's going to win the point or not. So it's less hits in the rally. So yeah, there are definitely lots of different cultures have different styles. Just play on different surfaces.
So after college, you played pro. You played at all these different countries. What was the deciding factor to getting into coaching?
Well, I went to a place in Florida called Saddlebrook, and it's the home of Harry Hopkins Tennis Academy, and I was fortunate enough to work with some of the best coaches in the world there, and was working on my game, trying to go out and play the tour. Then they started letting me work a little bit to earn some money to pay to go out on the tour, and I was fortunate enough once to hit with Jimmy Arias, who was 4 in the world, and Jimmy has gone on to have an unbelievable career, and I saw how good he was. He was naturally talented, and it just made me realize that I wasn't going to reach that as a player, but I always had the dream of being in tennis still and doing player development, and trying to become a coach and help players like my coach Jeff Frank had done so many years before that. So I think I always had it in me to want to be a coach after the playing career was over, and I think Jimmy Arias showed me how good the top level of pro tennis really is.
Would you say he was one of the biggest reasons why you're into coaching? Like, he was your biggest influence to go to coaching?
No, I wouldn't say that at all. I just think he was more sort of a reason that I realized, hey, I probably won't make it as a player on the tour. But I think Coach Frank and my stepfather, Dr. Darian, had the biggest influence on me wanting to be a coach. I mean, they worked so much with me, and I wanted to emulate them, give that back to someone and be a part of their lives, just like they had been such a vital part of my life. So good people helped me a lot along the way.
So the first place you went to was Alabama, the University of Alabama, and that was an assistant coaching job with the women's team. So I just want to know, why was that your first place to work at?
So I was at Harry Hopkins in Saddlebrook, as I mentioned, and the women's coach was really good friends with one of the head guys at Harry Hopkins. And when she went to look for a coach, she asked him who would be good, and he recommended me. So I owe him a lot for getting my start in college tennis. But I'd never worked with women's tennis. That was certainly a difficult or different experience for me. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. Alabama obviously is in the SEC, Division I. Great place to get started in college coaching.
Was it overwhelming, or did you step up to the challenge, and did you really learn from the experience?
Oh, I learned a lot. I mean, our head coach was a lady named Karen Geyser. Karen was she taught me lots of things about college tennis that I didn't even know about, really. A lot of things that go into it. She was a good motivator. She worked the girls really, really hard. She used me in a way that was like kind of for the tennis. I played a lot with the girls and gave them a lot of advice about their tennis, which is kind of what I enjoy doing and enjoyed doing at the time. So yeah, I learned a lot, and it was a great first place to learn.
So then after Alabama, you went to Anderson College for a few years. What was different about that experience? Because that's a different division, and it's something new, and you were growing into a different kind of role.
Yeah, there was night and day difference. I mean, I still was working in women's tennis at Anderson, but at Alabama we had a big budget, and we were able to travel and do things. At Anderson, it was more or less what we did was on me, and how motivated and ambitious I wanted to be. So we had never really had a great women's program at Anderson. They had great men's teams, and I felt like we built the program up to a national level, and it was lots of fun, because then it was all me calling the shots and learning, and it was difficult because it was a junior college at the time, so we had to recruit the players in, and we got to see the Division I teams recruit our players out, because we had really good players. So every 2 years our roster was changing, so I got a lot of experience, I think, more so in the recruiting side of it, learning from the Division I coaches that were recruiting our girls, and also having to go out and recruit my own girls. I think I learned a lot in those 4 years.
And I believe it was really impressive when I was reading your resume and all of your experiences. It was really impressive to see that you were winning awards even at the start of your career, when you took a more independent role at Anderson, you won Coach of the Year for the Region X a few years in a row. And what do you have to say for, like, are you super proud of that? Like, that's very early on in a coaching career that you started winning awards.
You know, I think in life, everybody that knows if you work hard, good things happen for you. And you know, I worked hard. I recruited lots of girls that were, you know, good players, good people, and you know, the awards come because they do stuff, not because you do stuff. But they were great kids and did a great job for us. And I think again, we weren't on the map when I first came, and suddenly people were, you know, in the junior college world finding out that women's tennis at Anderson was actually pretty good all of a sudden. So it was good. That was a good feeling.
What would you say was the biggest learning experience at Anderson, since it was such a different atmosphere to here at Virginia Tech, at Alabama, or Chattanooga?
Well, I think the number one thing was you had to be a self-starter and have to be motivated. And like, I think if you were in that job and not motivated, you probably weren't going to go very far. And I was very ambitious and wanted to be a Division I coach, or be the best coach that I could be one day. And so I think having to learn how to do all of it, you know, because we wore all the hats. There was really no help there. After my first year, they made me the sports information director because I was so gung-ho to try to promote our program. I was taking our number one girl, down to the local newspaper place to introduce her to people. You know, just you had to think outside the box and do a little bit more in that program because it just didn't come easy. You know, there was no support staff or anything like that. So I enjoyed it. Looking back, I don't know how I survived. How anyone survives in that kind of environment, because you don't have the support. Even now here at Virginia Tech, and certainly at Alabama, in Chattanooga, we had lots more support.
Yep. So you're speaking to my next question, which is regarding Chattanooga. When you first went there, you now have 2 coaching experiences that you brought, and this is an even bigger role at Chattanooga because you essentially were head of 2 different programs, the women's and the men's. You were coaching both sides. What do you think was the most challenging part of that experience?
So the most challenging part for sure was the balancing of 2 programs. I mean, you know, I was excited to get back on the men's side a little bit. I mean, I did women's tennis for almost 10 years, so but to get back on the men's side, I hadn't had any experience in that. And I think it was good that I started on the women's side because I was too close in age probably to the guys. And so it was just challenging balancing the 2 practices a day. And you're split a little thin, so you're recruiting, but you're recruiting for both teams. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
And you went to a couple of conference finals. Was that really like the highest point of your career at that point?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've done okay at Chattanooga. I mean, at Anderson for sure, but at Chattanooga, I was hired to try to win back Southern Conference championships, and they had been super successful in the 80s. I mean, I think they won maybe 8 out of 10 years. So I knew the pieces were there to be successful, but they had not been very successful when I came. And so we kind of turned it back around and got us back on the side where we were close to winning, or at least competing for championships every year.
So when you were going to these finals and you won another Coach of the Year in that conference as well, what was the the opportunity for you to come here? Like, why were you able to come to Virginia Tech?
It's kind of a strange story because we had an athletic director change at Chattanooga, and it just kind of changed the position for me because I was getting older. Wanted to have, maybe think about how we grow the program, how we get maybe a women's and a men's coach, or at least have 2 assistant coaches to cover both programs. And at the time, because the AD changed, it wasn't really good timing at Chattanooga to grow. And so I started to look for another job. And I'm from this area, never dreamed of this job when I was starting in college, and when this job opened, it was a dream come true to be back in Virginia at Virginia Tech, close to my home, close to my family. Couldn't be a better job.
So, in your first years at Virginia Tech, you started off really well. I believe you went to the Sweet 16 your first year with the men's program. Why do you think you came in with that sort of impact onto the team?
Well, I think the former coach, Larson Bowker, a legend, he did a great job here at Virginia Tech and built the program up. We had some support from Jack Burrows and Bobby Burleson, who the tennis center's named after, and they sort of put us on the map nationally. And then I came in, and they had all the pieces in place almost, and so then you put me in place. I'm really willing to work super hard and motivated. We had Aaron Marchetti, who's my assistant now, was the star on the team and was an All-American, and so we had some really good pieces. I was fortunate enough to bring in one guy named Ryan Davidson, who from the Virginia Beach area, and he made a big impact. He won all the doubles. Almost won all his doubles matches that year. And we won the doubles point in the NCAAs to get to the Sweet 16. We won both doubles points. And had we not brought Ryan in, we might not have won 4-3. We might have lost 3-4. So a little bit of luck, that we found Ryan and got him here. And but there were a lot of good pieces in place when I arrived.
So a few years into the job, you went to the Junior Davis Cup in year 2000. I'm not really familiar with what it is and what you were tasked to do in this coaching role. So if you could just explain a little bit to me what that experience was like.
So the USTA has a program called Junior Davis Cup, and they make teams from each section in the country. And I was invited to coach the Mid-Atlantic section team, and I did it the first year, and we did not do very well because we did not have the best players from our section play. And I was fortunate enough to go back to them the next year because I'm very competitive and very motivated, and said, I'll do it again, but you have to let me try to recruit the players to play on the team. We need to incentivize them, the best players, to want to play this event, and we were able to do it to get those players and have much more impactful performance. I don't think we ever won it, but I don't know, junior tennis, there are hotbeds in Texas and Florida and California. Mid-Atlantic is really good, but the best players don't play. We're not going to compete with those other places, and so it was lots of fun. Enjoyed that a lot. It's just a week-long kind of a event in the summer. It was lots of fun to coach the kids.
So you won a few awards after that as well. In 2003, you won Big East Coach of the Year. Then in 2010, you won Atlantic Coach of the Year for the conference. And how would you say your coaching has developed here at Virginia Tech over the years in regards to not necessarily results, but just your coaching style? What do you think has changed?
I don't think it's changed too much. I mean, I think there are certain aspects of it that I think have changed, but I think the main thing that I've always done is show my care. I think if the players know that you're passionate about it and that you care a lot, it's hard for them not to want to play for you. And so I think it all comes down to treating the players with respect and treating them fairly and treating them so that they understand that you value them. And if you do that, then they also value you and play hard and do. We've always competed hard. Our teams have always been some of the best competitors. And I think the award stuff goes, it's the players. That just sort of hand in hand. But that's never changed. I mean, I'm a competitive person, but I'm also very aware that these guys are doing a lot of work and sacrificing a lot of time and energy. I won't say for me, but for the program and for it's their passion too. But I helping fuel that passion. So
Something I noticed that is really different with all the sports, not only here at Virginia Tech, but around the country, is how diverse the sport is. Tennis. I feel like out of all the sports, there's so many more different people in tennis. And you can see with all the flags back there, it's very diverse. And I just want to know how you manage to create an inviting environment to all these people who are just coming here to play tennis, and how you create a team with so many different.
it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I mean, again, it goes back to what I said before, that you create an environment where you value everyone. I think that creates the team environment, team culture, and team chemistry. It is interesting that tennis is so diverse, and I think about my childhood. I never got a chance to meet anyone from any other place in the world that I can remember. I don't remember one international student in my school, and I think how fortunate my own children have been to grow up in the Virginia Tech culture, where we have international players from all over the world, and they're speaking different languages and they have different viewpoints. And, my kids have been super fortunate in a way, and I have been too, to be around so many talented international students. Tennis is such an international sport that tennis is really the players around the world are really good. So I think that's why we see this collection of all these players from all over the place. It's fun.
So when a player comes from a different country, these international students, to Virginia Tech, when you approach coaching them, do you develop or utilize, because we were talking about it earlier, how players who come from different places, they play tennis a different style. So do you embrace that style and tone their skills to get the best out of them, or do you more try and get them to play the Virginia Tech way? Or
no, I think you have to embrace their style and try to develop their strengths. I think one of the things I learned early on in coaching was, even with Aaron, he had a world-class forehand and maybe not quite as good a backhand. And every coach he was with was trying to improve his backhand. And I kept telling him, hey, let's improve your forehand and not have to hit many backhands. And so that was a different approach for him maybe. And so I think that's kind of more my style, is that you try to emphasize what they're good at. You obviously are trying to improve the weakness, but you want to do what their strength is more. And so with international players, I had one kid who was very defensive minded, and we tried to make him more offensive minded, and I don't think it helped him. And I learned that early on at Virginia Tech. So you try to, it's not to say we don't have the courage to change something, because you got to be able to change something if it's not working, but if it's working, you want to emphasize it more.
Enhance the strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then, one thing I do want to know, this would be in your opinion, what do you think is the most valuable attribute a tennis player could bring to a team?
I think it's the competitiveness. If they're willing to work on a daily basis, if they're willing to want to improve, they have a good attitude. Those are all the things that I think are more important. Obviously it'd be great if they're a national champion or somewhere or whatever, that their skill level is already there. But I think you can develop some of that stuff, but you can't. I found it much harder to teach the competitiveness and the desire to be the best, and the sort of what's in their heart. It's hard to find the players. The players that do best are the ones that have those characteristics.
Now, what would you say is your most important characteristic? Would you say it's the competitiveness as well? Because you're a competitive player and coach, and when you try and coach your team, would you say it's your competitiveness that is really the most important characteristic that gets through to the players, or would you say it's something else?
I think it's a combination of the competitiveness, but also the fact that, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, that you care about each player, and that you're not treating them differently, or you're trying at the highest level to treat them very fair and competitive. And that competitiveness makes them want to compete too. And so they know that they want to do it sort of for you and with you, and be a part of something special, be a part of something bigger than just themselves, because most tennis players, it's an individual sport. So when they come to college, they've really never been a part of a team. So they don't know what that's like to do something for someone else as well. And so I think learning those lessons and seeing that hopefully modeled from the coaches is really important.
And we spoke about this earlier before we started the interview, but something that is a challenge in my opinion for tennis coaches is how different coaching in tennis is, considering, like you said, it's an individual sport compared to a team sport. When you approach your your players when they're one-on-one in the match already and they're playing, how do you think it differs from any coach who is in a team sport?
Well, I mean, I think the hard part is that you can't pull them out of the game and call a timeout. You know, you do have the changeovers, but you have very little small amounts of time to maybe make a difference or an impact. And I think as a coach, you know, you want to try to get the impact is very small, but you want it to be impactful. And so trying to get them to think the right way on a changeover, maybe in a positive way as opposed to a negative way, or getting them to realize maybe that the other guy's feeling nervous as well, or whatever that might be. I think that's the art to being a good coach on the court, and that's hard to do.
And sometimes it's difficult because it's 6 different matches happening on 6 different courts, and obviously you do your best to be involved in every single one, but how much do you credit your assistant coaches for helping you out with encouraging the players?
Oh, that was, we mentioned earlier what the difference at Anderson and Virginia Tech would be, and now I'm thinking we have 6 courts playing all at once, but I have 2 assistants covering 4 of the 6 courts. I'm only covering 2 courts, and I think that's a big difference. Anderson, I had to cover all 6, and there was no way I could cover it all. I couldn't watch it all, just to your point, and so there are gaps that you miss things, and so as a coach, you hopefully you're on top of everything. I have great confidence and faith in my 2 coaches that I have, that they're giving them good advice, and we talk about that all the time, like what advice we're giving them and how it's presented to the player, all of those types of things. I had an assistant a few years ago that used to record his conversations and then go back and listen to them, because like everyone, no coach is perfect. We make mistakes and try to see how he could improve. I learned a lot from that. So I listen. I don't record them, but I listen to myself and think about making sure before they come, choosing the words wisely, because you choose the wrong words, it can be detrimental to the result. So.
Now, something I do want to know in regards to your expectations for any player who comes to Virginia Tech, or any of the players who are here now or who have been here previously, aside from their competitive spirit, what do you think they should know your expectations are?
I mean, to be a good person, to do things the right way, to be a good sportsman. We talked about that earlier. That's important to me, and I think my teams have shown that over the years. It's more important to win the right way, and do things the right way, and that's always going to be the expectation at Virginia Tech, as long as I'm here, and to try to compete as hard as you can for the result, but understand that more important is that when it's over, whether you win or you lose, you feel like you've done your best. You put it all out there, and we all live with that. If it doesn't go our way, we can live with the fact that if we know we've left no stone unturned to try to do our best that we possibly can. And I think that's why over the years that all our teams have improved by the end of the year from the beginning of the year. And that's something we take great pride in.
Cool. Now this is a little bit more of a tough question in regards to how you deal with players who are differing in skill level. And you've been at so many different universities, you've seen so many different players. I imagine in a few of those years there was differences in skill levels between the players. How do you approach that as a coach?
Well, I would say early on in my life, I was probably less tolerant of the ones that had less skill. I give my wife a lot of credit there because she said, you have to treat each player as this with the same importance. If they're number 1 on the team or number 10 on the team, it doesn't matter. You should treat each one the same. And I learned a lot from her in that regard because I started treating the ones that were lower better, and I think that we got a better team chemistry, a better team culture, but I think it's just different in the fact that you can work on those skills more with the guys that don't have those skills. Maybe if you can teach those skills and get them to realize, hey, if we improve this or improve that, we might be able to move up the ladder and give them hope, give them encouragement to achieve whatever goals they might have, and to coach those guys. And I think that's the key to it.
Well, the lights just turned off, but I think the lighting should be all right for the most part, I hope. But now, something I do want to know is when you're talking about the difference in skill level, when a player demonstrates that they are willing to put in that extra work, and we talked about this earlier too, players who are putting in that work when nobody else is watching, how much do you think that benefits them?
Oh, that's what athletics is all about. People think that there's just guys that are completely gifted, and I do believe there are guys that are gifted, but the guys that are gifted and work harder always outperform the ones that are just gifted. And so I think getting the guys to realize that's what it takes. We've built a great culture here. Our guys all work really hard. They're here to do 2 things really, and that's school and tennis. And then there's the third one, which is their social life. And they know they're going to sacrifice their social life a little bit. You need social life in your life, but they sacrifice a lot to do what we want them to do and they want to do, I think.
How many times do you think you've seen players put in that extra work? And when you actually see it happen, does that make you super proud?
Oh, it's an incredible feeling. We had, I guess the poster story for our program is a guy by the name of Joao Montero. Joao came here in January his freshman year. He was 6'7", 8 on the team, but hard worker. And we knew when we recruited him he was sort of a diamond in the rough. We needed to polish the edges a little bit, and he improved and did all the work in all the areas we asked from him. And by senior year, he was number 1 on the team. He made the semifinals of the NCAAs. Just an unreal story. And it wasn't one thing that we did or he did, but a culmination of a lot of little things. And to see the improvement over 4 years for him, and to see he went out on the pro tour and was 235 in the world a year later. Just an unbelievable story. And he did the extra work, I think, but if you look at our program, we've had, I think it's the stat is out of the last 12 or 13 years, the number 1 player has played 5 and below when he started, and they've all improved. So it's not to say all players in our program have improved like that, but when you find the ones that are motivated and you put them in this environment that Virginia Tech provides for them, the nutrition and strength coaches and sports psychology. Gary Bennett's done an awesome job with our team. Trey North in the weight room. There's a lot of people that are involved, and to see a player like Joao who took advantage of all those opportunities and then it worked for him is really rewarding. Lots of fun to see.
Do you think that is the most rewarding aspect as a coach, seeing these players prosper?
Oh, that's absolutely. To see them achieve something that they've strived for to achieve, and to see them overcome the adversity and the difficulty. Joao was, he worked with the sports medicine, the sports nutrition people to get his body fat down to a level where he was fantastically fit, and that made all kinds of difference for him. He worked with the sports psychologist, Anthony Ross from Australia, did a lot of work with him about the sports psychology side, and Stephen Huss did so much work with him, and to see him actually get that reward at the end was super satisfying. But even if you don't get the reward at the end, it's satisfying to see someone strive to get to try to improve themselves and to make themselves better. Perseverance.
Now, what is one thing that you think a player should always practice constantly, no matter what the level is? Do you think that would be technique, strategy, mental toughness, physical activity?
I think they all go hand in hand. I mean, I think oftentimes we as players, you emphasize the physical, getting in great shape, trying to improve your technique and strokes, and you ignore the mental. I think the mental is as important. There's some guys that look really good, but they don't win in matches, and you wonder, gosh, why is that? And then there's some guys that don't look that great in practice and don't look that great technique, but they win, and they have that certain characteristic about them that makes them be able to perform under pressure. And so I think you should work on all aspects of those things that you mentioned, but the mental one is a really big one.
Now moving on to something that's a little bit more different. You are very involved in the community here at Virginia Tech, and it's something that is it's really inspiring to see somebody who really cares about all who are here. And I just wanted you to explain sort of what we were talking about before when we first interacted, the tennis clinics and the wheelchair program that you have here at Tech in this tennis center. What do you think was the motivating factor for you to implement these programs? And for those who are watching who don't know what it is, if you could explain.
Sure. So when I moved to Blacksburg, I was coming from Chattanooga, which was a big city and had lots of tennis. And when I moved here, I quickly realized that I was going to get fulfillment in the fact that my team was going to be very good, but the tennis community wasn't really thriving. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be here, tennis has to be thriving. And so we started clinics and camps and certain things like that to try to create tennis play. We started a junior ladder, we started junior development and that sort of thing. But then the last few years, that's been continuing and we've grown that. But in the last few years, so since around COVID, we've started doing wheelchair tennis. Wheelchair tennis, we developed a program here at Virginia Tech that is really good and really fun. It's more community based. We have players from outside of Roanoke and from just that drive a good distance to come to play with us. Our guys volunteer a couple hours a week, on a rotational basis. So maybe two of them do it this week, and then two do it next week, and two. So they really aren't doing it every week, but our program is every week. And I think at first, I thought, well, we're helping this community, but in reality, we learned a lot more and gained a lot more from doing it than we've given. That's a unique, fun group of people to be involved in. They're always happy. They work hard. They're all of the things that we just talked about. They enjoy it. They're good sports. They have some challenges and some difficulty to overcome, but that's what we've been preaching all along in our program, is to overcome adversity. And so to watch them achieve that and to achieve success and to have improved the way they have is incredible. Very fulfilling.
And you bring this sense of community even at game days when there's little kids helping out, picking up all the tennis balls after a point is scored. How important do you think that is to a small town like Blacksburg?
Well, I think it's just very important for the tennis community because I think, as I was telling you earlier, my son was a ball kid years ago, and now he's on the team, and I just wonder when the next ball kid will get that spark of desire to be really good, and we'll see it as an opportunity. I know that's what happened with my son. He watched me beat Duke when they were number 2 in the country, and the match was at the highest intensity level, and Joao, actually, Montero, the one I mentioned before, he won the deciding I guess it wasn't the decider. He was the last match on, and he won 7-6 in the third. And my son came off, his eyes were really big, and he's like, wow, it's incredible to see how they fight for every single point. And it's like, it's a learning opportunity for our kids in this community, and to have ball kids and have their parents come to our matches, and they sort of meet the guys and learn who they are, and just develop a better sense of community.
Now, after your long tenure here at Tech, what would you say is the most memorable moment? It doesn't even have to be a tennis match. It could be something that was happening in the community, or just a fan.
There have been so many. You mentioned the Sweet 16 when we won in the round of 32 to go to the Sweet 16 was my first year, and that was the beginning of something very special here. When I turned 50, we had a surprise. My wife had a surprise birthday party at the tennis courts for me. And a lot of our alumni showed up, and that was so touching and so meaningful. There's just been lots of great memories. Matches with Joao making the semifinals of the NCAA, watching all of the guys that made it to the NCAAs. We've had so many guys recently make NCAA championships. Just so fun to see those guys and be a part of that.
What's something different that you think this year the team, what did they do different or act different? Just what was kind of the feeling of this year's team?
I think I'd say that the thing I would be the most proud of this year's team is that we did not have the success that we maybe have had in the past, and we lost a lot of matches to really good teams. Our league is one of the best in the country. We had, I think at one point, 8 teams in the top 25, and sometimes as a coach you lose the team, and they stop caring, they stop working as hard, they stop fighting as much. And I was the most proud of this team because they kept getting knocked down and they kept getting up, and they were more determined than ever in the next match. And I think that says a lot about their character. I think it says a lot about how they were raised. I think it says a lot about our program, and I couldn't be more proud of that this year's team for that part of it.
I'm glad to hear that the team morale never went down, because I came to most of the matches, and it was a great atmosphere for a lot of them. And for the games that they did win, it meant so much to them. It was really electrifying. And I remember talking to Ilyas Fahim. I had an interview with him, and this was his second year on the team, and he really enjoyed it. And I think he got into a pretty good groove in the last couple of games. He got a couple of wins. I saw him on Instagram, and it's just great to hear that this team was really, really, really inspired and motivated to do better every single week. Do better, do better, do better.
We had some injuries, and I think it's hard when you have injuries that can sometimes take the spirit and the fire away. And guys all stepped up and tried their very best and represented our program in a first-class manner. And I couldn't be. I enjoyed this year because of that. The guys in the team were fantastic kids and worked so hard. I mean, I just can't even tell you how hard all of them work. And to see them fight like they did, even when we were losing some matches, is really inspiring.
Now, a couple of years ago, this is an incredible achievement. I think you might know what I'm alluding to. You were inducted into the USTA Hall of Fame in 2023. What was the feeling that you had when you got the call that you were going to be inducted?
I was a little surprised. That's a big honor, and it meant a lot. It was a really fun event. Francis Tiafoe was inducted in the same class with me, and he's one of the best players in the world, and to be even mentioned in the same sentence with him is unbelievable. But probably more meaningful than the award was that, like, all of my friends from Davidson, my college buddies, all flew in for the event and surprised me and came to the event. And to feel that support and love, pretty special. So I was happy to get the call, but the support around that and the friendships that I have over the years that meant a lot more to me.
It's really awesome to hear that you're Hall of Famer.
Thanks.
It really brings a legendary status to this school, another legend added to the catalog. And I'm really proud to have you as a tennis coach. It was great to watch the team over the past 4 years.
Thanks. I hope you'll continue to watch them.
I hope I'll come back. Now, the last thing I want to know is, what's next? What do you look forward to in the next season?
I want to get us back into the winning ways. I mean, you know, we certainly had a young team, and so we gained a lot of experience this year, but it's going to be more important what we do with that experience and how we develop. We've got some good kids coming from the recruiting side. I'm excited about those kids. One of my former players' brother is coming, and his brother was Ryan Fishback, and he did very well here and was just an absolute joy to have in the program. His brother Drew is coming, and I'm super excited to have him. He's a fantastic student, fantastic athlete, left-handed, just going to be a great player for us, and thrilled to get him. And then the other guy coming, Nico Tosca, is coming from New York, and he's going to be great. He's good in doubles. Drew and he have played doubles together a bunch. So I'm excited about that, but mostly about trying to get back on in the NCAA tournament and give ourselves a chance to be more competitive than we were in terms of the results this year. The competitor in me wants to win a lot.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, those were all of my questions. I hope everybody enjoyed the interview. And as humble as Jim Thompson is, he is literally a living legend right next to me. And he has revolutionized tennis here at Virginia Tech. And I'm really happy to have done this interview. And I'm glad you accepted it. And I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Sure.
So,
For sure.
if you could just tell everybody any encouraging words, or if you just want to encourage everybody to come out next season to watch Virginia Tech tennis here.
Please come out and watch our team. They're inspiring, and if you get to know some of the guys, you will have the best time ever watching our team play. But also, please go out and play tennis. It's the lifetime sport. It's meant everything in my life, and I'm pretty sure if you try it, you'll love it.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate your time, and I promise you I will work on my backhand too.
Perfect, good.